In our next problem of the day, we'll be solving using function notation, which all function notation is f of x, which f of x is just another way to rewrite y. You could also write this problem as y equals 2x squared minus x plus 5. So we're just going to be incorporating function notation and solving using it. So in our part A problem, it says to find f of negative 2. That is what that notation means. Which all that means, originally, it was f of x. But guess what? What did x just turn into? Well, x just turned into a negative 2. So all that's going to happen is everywhere in the problem that contains an x, bam, it's going to magically turn into a negative 2. It's like a magician. It's going to change from an x into a negative 2. So when I'm solving f of negative 2, be careful. That is not f times negative 2. That is just, it's kind of like y. So if f of negative 2 is confusing you, just change it to a y. Okay, so I'm just going to take my f of x and replace all my x's with negative 2. Okay, so it's 2 times x squared, so that x right there is going to change into a negative 2. I'm going to leave the 2 alone and change my x into a negative 2. So it's 2. I'm going to put my negative 2 in a parenthesis because it has an exponent with it. Okay, and then it says minus. I'm going to be placing my negative 2 in a parenthesis because that's an x, so my x is going to become a negative 2. And then finally, my last term does not contain an x in it, so I'm just going to drop down my 5. So again, all that happened was each of these x's just changed to a negative 2. Everything else in my problem stayed the exact same. So now, when we start solving, be careful. Exponents you must do first. Okay, the demon cats are going to be coming for you if you do 2 times negative 2, then square it. You got to do negative 2 squared, then multiply by the 2. Be careful. That's the one spot where a lot of students mess up on. So I'm going to do my negative 2 to the second power first, which is negative 2 times a negative 2, which is a positive 4. Okay, and then whenever you have a double negative, it will turn into a positive. So minus a negative 2 will turn into a plus 2. And I'm just going to bring on down my plus 5. And after this, I'm just going to combine my like terms, but I have to multiply the 2 and the 4 first. So 2 times 4 will give me an 8. And my 5. And now I'm so my 8 plus my 2 will give me my final answer. 15. And that one is done. Now be careful. F of negative 2, but don't. Just leave it alone. F of negative 2 equals 15. That would be my final answer. Okay, now I think we need to step this problem up a notch because that one just was not hard enough. I don't know what you guys were thinking, but I think you guys wanted more of a challenge. Okay, so part B applies to the same f of x problem, but now my x has changed into a negative 3x. Did you guys see it? It went from an x, but this time it changed to a negative 3x. Holy hot dog, that's crazy. Okay, so all that's going to happen, all my x's in the problem, instead of changing to negative 2 like before, now all my x's are going to change into a negative 3x. It's going to get exciting. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite my problem, now replacing all my x's with a negative 3x. So, I'm going to leave the 2 alone because it doesn't have an x. Okay, but the x right beside the 2, bam, it's going to change into this negative 3x. Again, it's like a magician. The x changes into a negative 3x. And like before, I'm going to put my negative 3x in a parenthesis. And I'm going to write the square right beside it. Okay, then it's minus the x, which again, the x is going to change into a negative 3x. Bam! So minus a negative 3x. And then the 5 doesn't have an x at all, so I'm just going to bring down the 5. So plus 5. Alright, now just like before in our previous problem, okay, I'm going to be doing my parentheses first, but whenever you guys have two things multiplying together in a parenthesis with an exponent, you raise each number in the parenthesis to the exponent. So I'm just going to focus on this negative 3x squared for a moment so we can figure out what that will look like. As negative 3x squared, whenever you have more than one term being multiplied together in a parenthesis with an exponent, you raise each number to the exponent. This is like negative 3 squared times x squared. Okay, all I did, I raised negative 3 to the squared and x to the second power. That's all I did. Okay, which that equals negative 3 times a negative 3 will give me a 9. And x to the second is x squared. Don't overthink that one. Okay, so that whole term right there is going to change into a 9x squared. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite my problem again. Okay, so I have my 2 still. I haven't done anything with the 2. But now in my parenthesis, I'm going to have the 9x squared. So that negative 3x squared equals 9x squared. Okay, and then I'm going to continue on with the problem now. We put it on hold, but we're going back to it. So my minus a negative 3x, a negative, and a negative will turn positive. So this will be plus 3x. And then my 5, I'm just going to bring it down. Alright, now my goal for the rest of the problem, we're going to multiply things together and combine our like terms. Who's ready? I'm ready. Okay, so let's keep going. So I'm going to do 2 times 9x squared, which 2 times 9 is 18, and I just leave the x squared alone because it has nothing to add its exponent to. I'm going to bring down my 3x and my 5. And now I check to see if there are any like terms I can combine. I have an x squared, but nothing else to combine it to. I have an x to the first. Remember, secretly there's a 1 hiding out there. Nothing to add to. And my 5 has nothing to combine to because there are not any terms.